Welcome to the Earth Feels podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell.
Today's question: how will buying upcycled foods help counteract climate change? And I'm excited to have with me two people from Upcycled Food Association who will help answer that question. First is Turner Wyatt, who is the co-founder and the CEO of Upcycled Food Association, and marketing director, Leah Graham. So welcome, you guys. I think maybe it would be best just to start with, what are upcycled foods?
Well, upcycled foods, there could be like a wide range of a definition of upcycled foods. Really, upcycled foods have been in existence forever. The ancient art of making the most out of everything you have, right? Grandmothers making chicken stock with their leftover vegetables, things like that. However, the Upcycled Food Association has formally defined upcycled foods as foods that use ingredients that otherwise would not have gone to human consumption, are procured and produced using verifiable supply chains, and have a positive impact on the environment. So, to simplify that, my favorite example of an upcycled food that's easy for people to understand, I believe, because I understood it the best this way. You have a pressed juicery, right? Everyone's drinking pressed juice. I live in Southern California. You can't walk down the street without seeing someone with a pressed juice being marketed for the benefits of pressed juices, all of that. So all of the pulp that comes from that pressed juice ends up in a landfill or a compost, best case, animal feed or something like that. So these companies have created these really innovative ways to take that byproduct waste of pressed juice and make it into a super nutritious chip that has tons of fiber and nutrients and all of these things that we as humans can be eating and have those nutritional benefits from.
That's cool. So it wouldn't be, because when you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, they could make it into like some kind of gelato or whatever, but they can dry it, they can bake it, they can do all different kinds of things.
100%. And you could do exactly that. You could add it as a supplement to a vitamin, or, I mean, people are making actual pet food that's sold versus like an animal feed. But yeah, you can come up with super creative ways to dry it. We have many brands that make flour out of the byproduct of tofu, the production of tofu through okara flour. So there's so many things. We're just scratching the surface.
So Wyatt, how did Upcycle, you're the co-founder, how did it get started? What was your background?
Well, first I have to say, excellent definition, Leah. This is me and Leah's first time doing a podcast together, and we're having fun. And
well, great.
She knows that I'm going to continue putting her on the spot because she just started working here like less than 2 months ago. And it's been a blast so far. Nice job, Leah. My favorite definition is, on top of everything that you said, upcycled food is the way for anyone to prevent food waste with the products they buy. So if you care about food waste...
And we all should.
Well, we all do. Who doesn't care about food waste? Actually, a recent study showed us that 99% of people want to reduce food waste.
Cool.
Which is unique, right? That's unlike, pick any other environmental cause, and there's always some adversary. Mm-hmm. People don't want the solar panels to go up because they have investments in oil and gas or whatever. But no one has an investment in the opposite of food waste. In fact, it just helps everyone when we use all of our food. Helps the food companies, helps the environment, helps consumers. It really is a win-win-win. And Rose, yeah, I came from the food rescue world.
So I found out about you from Dave. I'm gonna screw up his last name,
Laskarzuski, I think.
Laskarzuski.
Dave,
okay.
I love you. I'm sorry that if I just messed up your name.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome guy. He turned me on to you and turned me on to Upcycle because he does a gleaning kind of thing. So are you, when you say food rescue, what was your background in food rescue?
Similar to what Dave does. So Dave's with an organization called Uproot. What they do is organize groups of volunteers to go to farms, glean all of the produce that would otherwise go to waste from that farm, for whatever reason. Either they didn't have the labor to harvest it, or it was the wrong shape, or there was just too much of it. So they get all these volunteers, they go out into the field and they glean all this produce off the farm and then deliver it to food pantries, basically organizations that help feed food insecure families and individuals. And Denver Food Rescue, the organization that I co-founded, did basically the same thing. Groups of volunteers go out into the world and get food that would otherwise go to waste and then deliver it to families and individuals experiencing food insecurity, except we would go get the food from grocery stores instead of farms. So it's a part of this whole food security, health equity, food waste movement that's gained a lot of recognition and traction over the last 10 years, and 1 year, especially with COVID. There were so many people who lost their jobs and are experiencing food insecurity for the first time. So it's super important work. For me, the frustrating thing was that it's totally dependent on the goodness of people's hearts, which is unreliable, right? And so upcycled food is really a way to give consumers and use normal market forces to accomplish the same objective of reducing food waste, but in a market-driven way that gives consumers the ability to, like Leah said, take the upcycled chip off the shelf instead of the regular chip, and you're helping to prevent food waste and therefore helping to combat climate change.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. Drawdown does talk about 8 of the top 20 solutions to climate change are food related, and food waste is a huge portion. One of my speakers on that episode was from Canada, from Second Harvest in Canada. And I thought our food waste here was bad. Which is like close to 40. And she said there it's 57% in Canada. So this has the potential to really, I think it's 33% of greenhouse gases are related to food waste, methane, waste from landfills. So this has a huge potential, a huge upside. And 99% of people are on board with it. That's amazing.
I know, right? It's like so according to Project Drawdown, number one solution to climate change, and everyone agrees on it. So to me, it's such an easy win. It's a low-hanging fruit.
No pun intended.
No, pun just enforced. Pun mandatorily enforced there.
Where did the idea to upcycle and brand it come from?
The question is, where did the idea to brand upcycled food as upcycled come from?
Because I think consumers, you just said 99% of people they want to reduce food waste and they get it. But when you're picking that bag of chips off the shelf, how do you know? So the idea that it has to be branded, it's brilliant, I think. If you look at it's no different than branding organic. When you look at something, you're like, oh, I want the organic, whatever. If it didn't have an organic label on it, you wouldn't know. So there's the choice. So now it's putting the choice in the consumer's hands. How did that come about?
Well, it came about from a vision that we talk a lot about here. And I hope it's a vision that your listeners and you will resonate with. And it's a vision that you're walking down the grocery store aisle, and every which way, you turn left, you turn right, you turn the corner, in the next aisle, around the perimeter, everywhere you go in the grocery store, there are upcycled products. In the same way that today you see the word organic everywhere. Everyone in the world, many people, I shouldn't say everyone in the world, many people interact with that word organic every time they go into a grocery store. Even if they don't buy anything that's organic, they still see it. And that's the future that we're working towards for upcycled. So in the same way that you have organic shoppers, I only buy organic, you're going to have only upcycled shoppers, and everything they put in their cart, from food for themselves to baby food, pet food, cosmetics, home goods, cleaning supplies, everything is going to help to prevent food waste. And so that was kind of the vision that our co-founders and that the leaders of this movement have been working towards for a long time. And one of the early pieces of research that kind of led us to that vision was from one of our co-founders, Dr. Jonathan Deutsch from Drexel University, a chef and food scientist who was one of the early researchers and found that consumers think of upcycled food as different from both conventional and organic. So they think about it differently. but in an analogous fashion. So they see it as a category of food and products that could apply to any products around the grocery store. In other words, anything you buy in the grocery store, there could be an upcycled version of it. And consumers would go, yeah, okay, I expect to see the organic peanut butter right next to the conventional peanut butter, right next to the upcycled peanut butter.
Wow.
That's how consumers would conceive of that.
So all products really could be upcycled.
Absolutely. Because, you think about what's in the food. Take Leah's example, the pulp that's left over from juicing.
Mm-hmm.
Inside of that is fiber, and there's some starch. There's some, I'm not a food scientist, but there's the chemistry of what's left in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very versatile. Mm-hmm. And you could dry it and grind it up into a flour, or you could pull the starches out and turn it into a bioplastic, or you could pull the proteins out and turn it into some additive that could be put into a makeup or a pet food, or, it's really, there's a lot there. And the reality is we put a lot of energy into creating the whole carrot, not just the juice. Mm-hmm. Right. And so let's get all of the good stuff out of the carrot once we grow it, not just the juice.
Right, because the idea of food waste isn't just that you're wasting the apple, you're wasting, or just the peels of the apple, you're wasting all the water that went into making those peels and the transportation costs and the picking costs and yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's a lot of energies that go into producing whatever that food is that you're wasting too, not just the actual food.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why food waste is the number one solution to climate change, because it's all of that combined: growing it, planting it, seeding it, transporting it to the store, getting it on the shelf, getting it off the shelf. And then, to see that end up in a trash can is just horrific, really.
Yeah.
And I think having this food branded, as you say, with the mark that's going to, tell consumers like this is an upcycled product is really important, because people don't know right now, and it's going to be our job to get the word out. Right. So we appreciate you doing this podcast and helping educate people, because I'll take myself for example. Like I said, I live in Southern California. People are very aware of where their food comes from, what they're eating, what they're buying, myself included. I worked in CPG for 10 years. I did not know until 2 months ago when I started here that we were wasting 40% of our food in the United States. You would think I would know that. If I don't know that, there's a lot of people that don't know that, because I feel like I have a pretty good pulse on what's going on. So I'm really excited that we're at this pivotal moment where we have a logo to put on packages, allowing people to use their buying power to purchase these products and have a real impact, because it's actually a quite simple way to do it. You can ask people to compost and do all that, but that's a great thing to do, but not everyone has the capacity to do that. Not every city has a composting facility. Mm-hmm. It takes time and effort to do that. This is a very simple thing that any consumer can do once they recognize which products, where to buy them, and the impact it has.
So do you have a bunch of partners already? A bunch of food manufacturers that are on board?
We do.
Yeah.
Well, our membership right now at UFA, in just a year, we've grown to 160 members across 20 countries, and they kind of run the gamut of all categories: food, beauty, pet food, like I mentioned, ingredients. And just today, actually, we announced a new partnership with US Foods, which is a huge US distributor of products. And that's going to, I think, really help educate consumers and get those products on shelf.
So when will the branding actually start being on product?
Yeah. So we're in the beta phase. It's a really arduous process to get certified. This isn't just you can take that pulp and go dehydrate it in your kitchen or something. It's, a certified food that has to go through all the regular standards. So it's being certified through a third party called Where Food Comes From. Those first beta food should be getting through in the next couple of months. And we hope to see packages get refreshed and on shelf by the end of the summer.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's coming up. And then open enrollment for certification will start in June. So anyone that has a product or ingredient that wants to get certified will be able to apply to do that in June.
So you have a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah. And then is there a whole education process? I mean, are there commercials and all that kind of stuff to get the consumer print ads and all that kind of stuff, billboards? I mean, what are you doing to try to educate the consumer?
Yeah, we're working on a marketing strategy to roll out once we think it's important to have it be synergized with once it's actually on shelf. So when you see the billboard, you can go into store and pull it off right away. So we'll be launching that as well, kind of in tandem. In the meantime, it's really exciting. Like Turner said, 99% of people want to help reduce food waste. We're getting a ton of media that's writing stories about upcycling and how you can reduce food waste. And there's just a lot of natural consumer education going on as well, which is awesome for us. And, we launched the logo last week. We got just a ton of great feedback. CBS News did a 7-minute segment on Upcycled Foods talking about the logo. So we know it's something people are interested in knowing about just kind of naturally. So I think once we have the logo and can educate consumers, we will be well on our way. So
is that something that you have access to? Maybe you can shoot me that, and I will put it
definitely
on the webpage for this so people can actually see the article, to see a video.
Yeah.
This is just audio, but to see a video, people can go to the webpage and actually watch what's happening.
Yeah, to see the logo.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think demystify what upcycled food is, right? Like, we've talked about it here, but I think people unfortunately still think of pulling something out of your recycle bin or something like that. And it's definitely not that. It's a clean process. And I think we'll work really hard to make sure people understand this is food that's manufactured in a food processing place.
I can remember visiting my relatives in Ireland, and they lived in downtown Dublin. Nothing went to waste because they were poor. And I can remember sitting in their kitchen and them giving me potato peel wine that my cousin Greta actually made from potato peels. They didn't waste anything. It was delicious.
And I love stories like that because it's a great reminder that upcycled is really kind of a misnomer. Your cousins wouldn't say, this is upcycled potato peel wine.
No.
They would just say, this is what we make out of the potato peels.
Uh-huh.
So Leah's point is exactly right on. Upcycled products, upcycled ingredients are just exactly like everything else that you buy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we're using these ingredients that happen to be more sustainable, that have been generally systematically overlooked by our current food system, which is totally broken.
Yeah.
And this new movement is a way to call that out. It's nothing new. Your cousins have been doing it. People have been doing it forever. It's just simply using all of the food. It's recognizing the potato skins are an ingredient. It's not waste.
Right. A nutritious ingredient. Well, and you think about, I think we all have leftover day where we take out whatever's in the fridge and make soup out of it or whatever. At least hopefully we do. That's upcycling in your own home, is just using that mashed potato to thicken the soup and using whatever broccoli crowns you have left over or whatever, and just throwing it all together and saying, okay.
It's interesting too, how trends, just like they always circle back, right? It's interesting because Gen Z, the millennials right now are so concerned about sustainability and climate change and all of that kind of stuff. So they're really kind of driving this too. And those would be, the people purchasing these products. So it's fun to see that kind of come full circle too.
And so do you see it like at a grocery store? There won't be just a certain section that everything in here would be upcycled, like you have.
Yes,
like you might have the international section or something like that.
I mean, the dream is to have like an upcycled section, right? In different places of the store, like fresh upcycled, packaged upcycled, like Turner was saying. You'll walk into the store and you'll just know this is organic or this is
the organic produce section. This is the upcycled produce section.
Exactly.
Upcycled whatever section. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Something I was working on that I'm super excited about is those signs that stick out from the shelf. They kind of like smack you in the face as you're walking through the aisle. That could be a really cool way to point them out, because right now, if that word doesn't mean anything to anyone, and you could see the word upcycled on the shelf, but unless you're actually drawing someone's attention to it, they're going to just walk right past it.
Mm-hmm.
And so grocery stores are like the place to do a lot of that consumer education, because people are already in the mindset of absorbing a lot of that food marketing that companies already spend so much money on. And so that's sort of the place where they're already thinking about, okay, what do I care about? Am I looking at the per ounce cost? Am I a bargain shopper? Am I looking only for things that are on my club card discount? Only looking for things that are organic? And what we're doing and what the marketing strategy that Leah is rolling out is really intended to do is to say, hey, aren't you one of those 99% of people that cares about food waste? And if so, wouldn't it make sense for you to buy this product that, is just as nutritious, just as delicious, just as everything else as the one that you normally buy, but that helps to prevent food waste?
I'm really excited by it. It seems like more and more consumers really want to put their dollar. They realize the value of their dollar, and their purchasing power can change so much of the paradigm that we're in right now. And this is just an incredible way for the average consumer. Like you said, you don't have to really change anything that you're doing. You're still already going to the grocery store and already buying whatever for your family, healthy things for your family. Now you can make a big difference. It's brilliant, you guys. I'm just I get teared up thinking about it. It's so cool. It's so cool.
I mean, it's so feel good, it's just like, it's so easy. Like, just buy this one. And so, I don't know, I could be biased because now I'm so in it, but I'm like, this is incredible. Why would you not do this?
So any, I loved the origins of stories. So like you said, a bunch of you were sitting around in a room and start talking about this, or where did the idea come from? Do you even know that? I'm looking at you, Turner.
Yeah, I will take that one. So basically, yes, Rose. I mean, essentially, these businesses have, like we've been saying, these businesses are already out there. So they've already been operating and they've been running up against their own challenges. And so when I was leaving Denver Food Rescue and was passing the torch to the next executive director there, I was kind of doing some networking with other people in the food waste industry and started noticing that a lot of these upcycling companies were saying the exact same stuff. Like, we got to really everyone kept saying, we need to do a Got Milk campaign, but for upcycled.
Mm-hmm.
Or we got to do a click it or ticket campaign, but for upcycled food. There's got to be this kind of third party industry scale, big, not focused on any one company or product, but more focused on the whole environment to get people to, drink more milk, buckle their seatbelt, buy upcycled products.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kept saying that. And so we, a group of these businesses came together and formed this nonprofit called Upcycled Food Association. And that was only a year and a half ago. So everything that has happened in our organization has really been in the last 18 months. And it has been an absolute explosion. It's been so fun working here over the last 18 months because it's just, like you said before we started recording, timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like this is the moment in history in which upcycled products will become a thing that decades from now or centuries from now, we'll look back and say, okay, this was a significant step forward in our move towards a more circular economy and away from an extractive linear economy.
Well, I think it's a smaller movement, but I think there is upcycled clothing. I mean, I have a number of articles that I've bought in boutiques where it's a sweater that somebody's cut apart and different sweaters put together. But whenever I'm wearing them, people are like, that's cool. Where did you get that? I'm like, well, this is actually made of this t-shirt and 5 different sweaters, and it's artisan. But the idea is that's another huge industry that adds so much to climate crisis, right? And people understand what upcycled clothing is.
And it's the exact same. And a great an example that I love is there was this, I remember all over social media a couple of years ago, there was a whole trend of people making bed frames out of pallets.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you remember that, and you could do all these cute decorations and you'd paint them, and it was kind of this industrial look to it, and you could make it your own. And the beautiful thing about that is that, you look at a pallet that's stacked up behind a grocery store and you're like, oh, that's garbage. But then you take the exact same pallet, put it in your house, paint it, make it look cool, stick your bed frame on top of it, and suddenly it's not trash anymore. It's a piece of furniture. And so what you call things and what you name things really has a huge impact on how that product interacts with the rest of the world. Because if you see a pallet and you call it, that is the ingredient, quote unquote ingredient of some cool, trendy furniture, then that palette has a much more positive impact on the environment and on people than if you call that palette trash. And the same thing goes for food. If you call the juice pulp, that's a food ingredient, then it's going to get treated like a food ingredient, and people are going to make new, wonderful, nutritious products out of that food ingredient because that's just what it is. But if you call it waste, then it's going to get treated like waste, and it's going to end up behind the grocery store like the pile of pallets.
Yeah, in the dumpster or whatever. Yeah. So what's next? This past week on Earth Day, you launched your logo, which is very cool looking, and I will include that on the webpage. Where do you go now?
Well, like I mentioned, now there's a lot of moving parts, getting these products actually certified, seeing that logo on pack, getting it on shelf. The consumer education is no easy thing, right? Like you can put a shelf talker in a grocery store, but people don't stop and be like, what is this? It has to be tied to like, oh, I saw in this article about Upcycled. Oh, and then as I was walking here, someone said they listened to NPR or this podcast and they heard about Upcycled, and then they see it in the store and then they're like, oh, right, this is Upcycled. Oh, right, I should be buying this, so it's going to be quite an effort to have that 360 approach. So that's definitely my first thing that I have to get rolling out there.
Yeah, I think it's the idea that there's a statistic that a person has to hear something 7 times before they kind of take it in and process it as even with awareness. So you've got to see it over and over and over again before it changes the groove in your mind, right?
Yeah.
To think about things in a new way. So
right. Well, and it's like, even if you say organic, it's like, it's a label, like no one really knows like the process of how it got to be organic. So it's also just having them understand the impact too, which I think is important to us. It's not just marketing, money-making thing. This is important. And I said earlier, it was a trend for Gen Z, but this is their life. They need to protect their planet. We need to be doing everything we can. We are moving in the wrong direction and we need to turn this around. So I think getting the authenticity of it is incredibly important.
And what was your background before this, Leah?
I worked in marketing and food, mostly like snack bars, Kind and Cliff Bar. Yeah. Kind
and Cliff Bar are positive food.
They are both incredible companies and they do so much to give back that honestly, neither of them talk about it. It's not like something they promote, I don't think immensely, but they both are just trying to do so much to give back. So definitely. Yeah.
And before you know it, Cliff Bar, Kind Bar, you're going to have an upcycled SKU. You're going to have an upcycled version of the bars that you have, right? Do you think, Leah?
I don't see a reason why not. It's a plus for everyone, right? You have to think. I've never been to those manufacturing facilities, but things are going to waste there that they could easily turn into something else, I would imagine, and that helps their bottom line. It's help reduce waste or reduce food ingredients going into a landfill. Like Turner said, you could really turn in anything into an upcycled product. You just have to be creative and come up with the way to do it. But it can be done for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And I would just say that, that really is the flagship, the certification, but we're doing a bunch of other stuff too. So I want to give the other people on our team shout outs who are working on other projects. Sure. We have a whole investor program. We're trying to bring more financial capital into the industry as well. So we're working with investors and networking and kind of building a community of people with capital to help grow this industry. So that's something really exciting.
Well, that's kind of interesting because there's a guy that I just messaged about you guys. So be on the lookout for him, Craig Jonas from CoPiece. I told him, he's right in your backyard. I was like, do you guys know? Do you know about him? So if you don't hear from him, let me know. I'll poke him. Because he's a holding company, but they're really working towards investing in companies that are doing good.
It's a huge opportunity for any investor because, if you think $1 trillion worth of food gets wasted every year, that's just waiting to get found. And entrepreneurs and food businesses are going to go out and they're going to reclaim that $1 trillion. And, doesn't every investor want to be a part of that? So that's one thing that we're really advocating for. Our membership team is also hard at work. Leah mentioned we're up to about 160. I think it's actually closer to 170 members as of this week. And they're growing that membership base like crazy. They were all likely to reach a community the size of about 300 businesses. That's our goal for 2021. As we bring more people into this community, it's just going to become more abundant and more prolific to kind of connections that we're able to make and kind of good we're able to do. And at the end of the day, we're a nonprofit. Our mission is to prevent food waste. And so everything that we do, all these different people who are bringing in, it's all about preventing more food waste. I think that this industry has the ability to prevent billions and billions of pounds of food waste in the years to come. So that's where we're going.
Amazing. Well, anything else that you feel like my listeners should know about you guys? This has been very educational for me. And now I'm excited about it.
No,
Great.
that's awesome. Mhm. No, we appreciate you reaching out and giving us the opportunity. We're so excited. And if your listeners have any questions, they can reach out to info@upcycledfood.com, visit our website. It's all exciting news ahead.
Yeah, it's nice to have something uplifting to share with my listeners. We always close with a 3-part segment. So good news that's out in climate. Do you have anything other than obviously what you're doing, but anything else that you feel that came across your feed this week that you were really excited about?
Here's one great thing. My uncle emailed me on Earth Day and said that he was planting a tree. And I thought that was so sweet because it's just a reminder. I mean, this is so cliche at this point, Rose, but it's just a good reminder that like, if you have the disposition to do something in your personal life, that something really simple like plant a tree in your backyard, then maybe that's going to put you in a mindset to make other changes in your life that might seem insignificant to you, but that have a huge impact at the end of the day, like buying upcycled products. Here's a cutesy story for you.
Also is the influencer part of it. When one person buys upcycled product and they tell their friends about it, then they tell their friends, they tell their friends. When you're planting a tree in your yard and somebody walks by and sees you planting a tree and be like, Happy Earth Day, I'm planting my tree today. It makes them, maybe they're not going to plant it today, but maybe, a week from now they might be.
Totally.
So.
And this Thursday, so a week after Earth Day, is Stop Food Waste Day, April 28th.
So what does that mean? Is there a big push that day that you guys are behind or what?
There's not really a big push that we're behind necessarily here. I'm just thinking off the cuff. I encourage everyone to look up one of our members on our website and find a product that resembles something that you already have in your home and go to their website and just order one of their products and just see what you think about it.
Okay.
That's my other one.
We'll put that down as an action step. That's
that was going to be my action step, Turner. You stole it.
I'm sorry.
I was like, we don't have the logo on packages yet, but you can go to our website and all of our members are there. I think also just generally with good news with climate change is the new administration is obviously doing a lot too.
It was amazing to hear Biden commit this week to a 50%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they doubled down on like finance for international solutions. So that's incredible news.
Yeah. It's just such a breath of fresh air. And then a sanity tip. I'm sure it's been really crazy with you guys. How do you keep yourself sane when you get in a sense of overwhelm?
I think just spending time outside. I was on a podcast with Dana Gunders, the executive director of ReFed, another great food waste organization, last week. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about Earth Day. It was on Earth Day. And we were talking about Earth Day and we're reminding ourselves that the whole sustainability movement is kind of such an industry now. And I'm in the industry and I'm grateful for it. And I think it's necessary and important. At the same time, it's good to remind yourself that, at the end of the day, this isn't about the industry of being more sustainable. It's about being more sustainable so that our planet has the capacity to continue being abundant and offering us all of the beautiful, fulfilling food and experiences and beauty that it has. Mm-hmm. And so just like going outside and bearing witness to all of that abundance and beauty. That's my sanity tip this week.
I like that.
My sanity tip, well, it's sanity, but I am really trying to, in my own life, just like reduce food waste and like those basic steps like I talked about, like use the food that you buy, be cognizant of how much you're buying and just don't let things go to waste. Maybe it's not what you wanted for dinner, but that's what's in your fridge. So that's what you're having. Like, otherwise it's in the trash. Sometimes makes me almost feel better. It's like I did this small thing and that's helpful.
Yeah, I had a guy on last week there's an organization here in Massachusetts. It's called Bootstrap Compost. They actually pick up your food scrap, especially if you live in an apartment, right? What are you going to do with them? You can't compost them. So, and they go to restaurants and that kind of stuff too. But he was talking about when you go to Costco and you look at that 3-pound bag of broccoli, not to diss Costco. When I was married and I had 2 teenage boys living at home and fed half the neighborhood, I used to go to Costco all the time, but now, if I buy that bag of broccoli, my old mindset was I can buy that bag of broccoli just as inexpensive as I can buy one head. So whatever I eat, I'm still saving money. But now I'm like, I'd actually rather spend a little bit more money, buy something smaller and not waste the food. So it's changing your mindset. Well, thanks, you guys. This has been really great to get to meet both of you. And I'm so excited for where this is going to go. Hope to see you guys again. Maybe we can do something else 6 months down the road and see how it's going.
That'd be amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Rose.
That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.